The forge world of Kartal burned like a living sun, its surface broken into giant floating platforms that circled a glowing planetary core. And every platform held massive alien forges where heat, pressure, and gravity were forced together to make the strongest metals known in the galaxy. Metals used to build warships, city shields, and weapons meant to last forever. And this world had never known failure until now. Because on the central platform the ancient forge master Jeruan stood before a slab of dark alloy that was supposed to be perfect. Her tall, insect-shaped body covered in runes of authority earned over centuries of creation. And around her stood engineers, generals, and rulers from dozens of species, all silent, all afraid. Because the slab before her was cracked, not melted, not burned, but cleanly split as if something had cut it with care. And Jeruan raised one heavy claw and struck the metal once more, and the slab broke fully apart. The sound sharp and final, echoing across the platform, and a wave of shock passed through the gathered crowd because this alloy had survived star cannons and gravity storms. And Jeruan spoke in a voice that filled the forge air, saying the metal should not fail, that it had been layered at the smallest level of matter, hardened beyond reason. And yet it had been broken not by machines or superweapons, but by simple blades. And as she spoke, a massive hologram formed above the platform, showing images from a recent battle, showing armored alien soldiers falling as dark-colored swords sliced through shields and armor as if they were soft cloth, showing close combat where technology meant nothing and hands held steel. And fear spread because this kind of fighting had not been seen in the galaxy for thousands of years. And then Jeruan turned her burning eyes toward a small group standing apart from the rest, a group that looked weak compared to the giants and beasts around them. 5 humans dressed in plain uniforms with no visible weapons, and she accused them of bringing this disaster into the galaxy, because only humans still used blades by choice. And the forge air grew tense as guards shifted and weapons powered up. But the humans did not move, and the man at the front stepped forward slowly, his boots ringing against the metal floor, his name Commander Elias Rowan. A man with tired eyes and hands marked by old burns and scars. A man who looked more like a worker than a hero, and he did not argue or shout. He simply agreed that the alien metal should not break. And when Jeruan demanded to know why it did, Rowan answered that the galaxy had tried too hard to make metal perfect. And this confused the forge master because perfection was the goal of all forge science. And Rowan calmly opened a small case and removed a knife, small and dark, its blade covered in flowing patterns like water frozen in motion. And the forge scanners immediately activated without permission, screaming warnings as they read the blade, finding strange strengths, strange flexibility, layers upon layers folded together in a way that moved under stress instead of resisting it, and Jeruan declared it impossible, because no forge could shape metal this way at such a small scale without it tearing itself apart. And Rowan simply said the name of the metal Damascus steel, and added almost casually that his uncle made blades like this on Earth during weekends. And the words hit the forge harder than any explosion, because Earth was considered a young world, crude, dangerous, and backward. A place that had learned to fight before it learned to travel the stars, and laughter should have followed such a claim. But none came, because the data did not lie. And the blade in Rowan's hand was real, and before Jeruan could speak again, alarms screamed across the forge world deep and violent, shaking the platforms as emergency shields rose, and a warning filled the air as sensors detected the arrival of a massive fleet. The Vorik Dominion, an enemy that consumed worlds and enslaved species, an enemy that had already crushed entire alliances, and the sky above the forge darkened as countless warships tore into real space, their living hulls glowing like angry scars. and panic spread among the gathered leaders as defense fleets scrambled and forge cannons charged. And Jeruan realized with cold clarity that the galaxy's strongest metals were about to be tested again. And this time there would be no second chance. And as the first explosions lit the distant void and shock waves rippled through space, she looked back at the human commander still holding the simple blade. And for the first time in her long life she felt something close to doubt, because the metal that should not exist had already proven the galaxy wrong. And now the humans who made it were standing at the edge of a war that would decide everything. The Vorak Dominion fleet tore out of hyperspace like a swarm of living comets, thousands of warships stretching across the void, their hulls shimmering with an unnatural sheen that seemed alive. And the galaxy held its breath as these monsters moved as one, hunting every signal of life, every trace of resistance. And their reputation preceded them, for entire empires had already fallen under their claws. Planets stripped bare, civilizations erased, and now they were coming for humanity, for Earth and every human colony. And the Forge world trembled as the first wave of Vorak ships opened fire, casting streaks of energy across the sky as shields flared, detonations rippled through space. And even the ancient defenses of Kartal shuddered under the assault. Yet amid the chaos, a small fleet of human ships advanced, seemingly fragile and outdated compared to the living titans of the enemy, yet moving with purpose, their engines flaring as they cut through the battlefield. And alien commanders turned their heads in disbelief, scanning the hulls for hidden weapons, for unknown technology, for some trick that could explain their audacity, but there was none. Just humans in metal hulls shaped by design, but nothing extraordinary by galactic standards, and the humans did not hesitate, did not falter, but accelerated, closing the distance, weaving through fire and debris with uncanny precision, ramming enemy vessels, boarding them in a display that shocked even the hardened veterans of the Forge world. As tiny docking pods deployed and humans in simple armor and helmets poured into corridors, carrying nothing but swords, axes, and spears forged from layered steel that bent under force and then recovered, their weapons slicing through armor and shields as if they were paper, their strikes precise, adaptive, and relentless. And the Vorak soldiers, massive creatures bred for war, fell again and again to these humans who were wounded, burned, crushed, yet continued forward, eyes blazing, muscles straining, and morale among the alien ranks faltered as reports came in from all sectors that no vessel could hold the humans back, that they moved like shadows through corridors. And though many humans fell, each one seemed to inspire two more to rise, each strike spreading hope, determination, and fear in equal measure. And Jeruan watched in disbelief as her scanner showed human ships repeatedly entering volleys of plasma, turning away, surviving impacts that would have shredded a standard warship, and then striking again, ramming, boarding, and tearing through enemy formations with coordination that seemed impossible for such a small fleet. And she tried to understand the logic, the technology, the advantage. But the answer was clear in its simplicity. Humans fought differently, unpredictably, with courage, creativity, and a refusal to die. And the more she watched, the more the galaxy seemed to bend to their will, because each engagement ended with alien ships broken, fires spreading along hulls, and entire units left leaderless and confused while humans pressed on, pressing, moving, bending, refusing to yield. And the central Vorak flagship, a massive structure that commanded the fleet with psychic and technological might, moved to strike the Forge world itself, weapons charging to deliver a blow that could crush the planet. And the alarms reached a fever pitch as defense turrets struggled to intercept the incoming death. And Jeruan knew that the humans had to meet the flagship head-on, that nothing else could stop it, and she saw Rowan standing calmly on the bridge of the Iron Will, his crew moving with precision, undaunted, ready for the impossible. As he gave a single order, switched to close combat, and the humans accelerated, weaving through the enemy like a living blade. Ships ramming, boarding, twisting under fire. And Rowan's soldiers struck down Vorak warriors in corridors, in engine rooms, in armories, using the Damascus steel blades to cut through metal, flesh, and bone, each fight brutal, violent and precise, showing strength, skill, and the stubborn endurance of humanity, and yet each success came with a cost. As humans were wounded, burned, or killed, but their resolve never faltered, and reports of their victories spread across the battlefield, shaking the confidence of even the largest and strongest ships, and the humans moved as one, a swarm of controlled chaos, their weapons adapting, their minds calculating, their hearts burning with courage. And as the Iron Will approached the central flagship, Jeruan realized the audacity, the brilliance, and the desperation of humanity for these humans, few in number and fragile by galactic standards, were charging into the heart of the Vorak fleet with nothing but layered steel, courage, and determination. And they did not hesitate, did not falter, and the battle became a dance of fire and blood, as humans and Vorak soldiers collided in a chaos of sparks, energy, and metal, with screams of rage and pain echoing through the corridors and across the void. And each human who fell was replaced by another who fought harder, faster, smarter, bending under force rather than breaking, showing the galaxy a new type of warfare, a new type of strength, one that did not rely on perfection, overwhelming technology, or monstrous size, but on courage, creativity, adaptability, and an unyielding refusal to give up. And Jeruan could only watch, fascinated and terrified, as the humans pressed closer to the heart of the Vorak flagship, cutting through every defense, adapting to every weapon, surviving every attack, and proving that their small, flawed, seemingly fragile world could produce warriors capable of challenging the most powerful species in the galaxy. And as explosions lit corridors, metal twisted and bent under their blows, and the flagship shuddered under repeated boarding and assault, she realized that this was not luck, nor technology, nor alien advantage, but something entirely different, something organic, something human, a force that no algorithm or weapon could predict, a force built on stubbornness, courage, and intelligence. And she knew the climax was near, for the humans would meet the flagship's core, they would face its leader, and either destroy it or be destroyed. And despite the danger, the calm determination of Rowan and his crew radiated through the communications, their voices steady, their movements precise, their courage unshakable. And as the Iron Will collided with the flagship's hull, tearing through plating that should have been indestructible, the galaxy witnessed a force that was small but unstoppable, fragile but unbreakable, human. And the battle that seemed hopeless to every other species was just beginning to show the strength that humans carried. A strength born from centuries of survival on a fragile planet, sharpened by necessity, experience, and a will that refused to surrender. And Jeruan, ancient and powerful, watched, knowing that the outcome would redefine everything she had believed about strength, metal, and the very nature of war, because humanity, with their flawed, bending steel and unbreakable hearts, had begun to show that even the strongest fleets, the most perfect alloys, and the oldest empires could fall before courage and cleverness. And the Vorak flagship, massive and terrifying, had never faced an enemy like this, one that fought with intelligence and heart rather than brute force alone. And as Rowan and his crew fought through corridor after corridor, cutting, dodging, surviving, and advancing, The galaxy trembled, for the humans had become not just a threat, but a lesson in the power of resilience, and the battle was far from over. Yet the first victories had already been won, and the impossible had begun to happen. Inside the Vorak flagship, the heart of the enemy fleet, the environment was chaos made tangible, gravity twisted and fluctuated. Corridors bent under stress, alarms screamed. Red lights flickered across walls of living metal, and the humans advanced through the battlefield with unwavering focus. Each step measured despite explosions and falling debris, and Commander Elias Rowan led them forward with calm authority, his boots striking metal floors as sparks flew from shattered panels. And every human soldier carried nothing more than a blade. Simple in appearance but extraordinary in capability, the Damascus steel in their hands flexing, bending, absorbing impacts, cutting through armor and bone alike. And as they moved, the Vorak soldiers attacked in swarms, massive creatures with claws and energy weapons designed for war, bred to kill. Yet each human met them with precision and courage, cutting, dodging, and using the confined spaces to their advantage, sometimes turning the enemy's size against them, striking joints, severing limbs, and moving with a rhythm that combined training, instinct, and desperation. And the battles were brutal, bloody, and relentless, with sparks and blood floating in zero gravity, alarms and shouts echoing down endless corridors. Yet the humans refused to stop, refusing to retreat, refusing to falter, as if each obstacle only strengthened their resolve. And Rowan, observing the chaos around him, moved like a shadow, cutting a path toward the core, encouraging his team, coordinating strikes, and remaining calm in a situation that would have overwhelmed even the most seasoned alien warriors. And one by one, his team fell, some wounded, some dying. Yet each death seemed to fuel the others, creating a chain of determination that the Vorak could not comprehend. And the living core of the flagship pulsed ahead, a massive energy source that controlled the fleet, radiating power and psychic influence, calling to the soldiers. And the Vorak mind spoke through the vessel, asserting dominance, mocking the humans, telling them they were insignificant, that their lives and efforts were meaningless against such strength. But Rowan, undeterred, approached the core with measured steps, analyzing weaknesses, planning his strike, knowing that failure meant the end not only for him and his team, but for countless human worlds. And as he reached the outer perimeter of the core chamber, he planted his blade into the glowing heart, the Damascus steel cutting through layers of energy and matter in a way that defied reason. And he activated the contingency designed for this moment, a weapon built not of flawless metal, but of layered imperfection, a gift from the Forge world, a combination of human ingenuity and flawed brilliance. And the core exploded in a burst of light and energy that tore through the flagship, sending shockwaves through space, destroying the vessel from the inside out. And as the flagship fell, the rest of the Vorak fleet, leaderless and confused, faltered and went dark. Their communication disrupted, their organization shattered and across the void. Reports came in of human ships surviving against impossible odds, boarding and destroying enemy vessels, and the galaxy watched in awe. For the humans, few and fragile as they were, had turned the tide of the battle, proving that courage, ingenuity, and determination could overcome even the most technologically advanced and physically imposing enemy. And Jeruan, standing on the Forge world, observed the aftermath, her mind struggling to comprehend what she had witnessed. The humans, bleeding and battered, standing amidst the wreckage, alive and victorious, not because of perfect metal or overwhelming numbers, but because of resilience, adaptability, and the refusal to give up. And days later, when the immediate threat had passed and the smoke cleared, She approached a human smith at a memorial constructed for those who had fallen, the humans who had given everything to achieve this victory, and she spoke, acknowledging that their metal, their techniques, and their approach were flawed, and yet, that was why it had succeeded, why it had achieved the impossible. And the smith, simple and proud, smiled and offered to teach her the methods almost casually, noting that it was made every weekend on Earth, a statement that sounded mundane but carried the weight of centuries of human ingenuity, survival, and stubbornness, and in that moment, the galaxy understood a truth it had never known, that humans, with their imperfections, creativity, and will to survive, could challenge the strongest fleets, the deadliest weapons, and the most ancient empires. That perfection alone was not strength. That adaptability, courage, and intelligence could bend reality. And Jeru unbowed her massive frame, acknowledging the humans as teachers, as equals in a way no other species had dared. And humanity, once considered weak and primitive, had shown that resilience and determination could reshape the galaxy, that even the smallest, most flawed beings could achieve greatness against impossible odds. And the story of the battle, the fall of the Vorak flagship, the courage of the human soldiers, and the simple Damascus steel that had made victory possible, would be told for generations, inspiring awe, fear, and respect, reminding all that strength was not only measured in size or technology, but in heart, mind, and the refusal to break. And the humans, battered but unbowed, returned to their worlds, carrying the knowledge that they had faced the impossible and survived, leaving a mark on the galaxy that would never be forgotten, a mark built on courage, sacrifice, and the simple, unyielding truth that humanity could bend where others broke, endure where others failed, and triumph against the impossible.